Hi. I just got back from therapy, and before I went to the house, I wanted to just get this. I'm exhausted. I mean, I got up earlier because of texts, but I'm also like really drained. And the crux of the conversation, we talked about a lot of things regarding my family and my sister, but the ultimate point of it became, do you really want to divorce, basically? And I said yes. And then she said, let's take it slowly. And she's like, you don't have to answer her texts, but you should really think about what you want to say, write things down, and send a letter on paper. And kind of toward the end, and then we drifted around, but that was like the basic idea was, let's take it a little slowly. And she doesn't want me to make a move without her, which is smart because I can get a raging bull or self-righteous or lose the plot a bit, be unclear. I guess. And fucking yawns, man. So, but anyway, toward the end, I was like, I do want to do this, but I'm really afraid. She is my sister. She's a lifelong family member. She's the past. It goes deep. And it feels really strange to even contemplate this. But when I contemplate any other option, I feel repulsed. And when I consider this option of going into a state of no contact, it's the only one that feels right, but it feels wrong at the same time. So she was like, this is one of the reasons why I need to take it slow, so that you can go through your morning, process it all, and send it in a really clear, definite state of mind. Yeah, that's the basics. But I told her what you said about, like, she's the angel, but in everyone's eyes, but I was an angel taking care of my mom. And so we got into talking about my mom and how I dropped out of school and nobody appreciated it. Not that I was looking for appreciation, but I also wasn't looking for patronizing dismissal. And later on, I was talking about how I have like low self-esteem, which was helped by Caroline and my father. She's like, mm-hmm. And I was like, but back in high school, everyone was telling me, like my adult friends were telling me, like, oh, you're so smart, you should go to Yale. But the reality was I was failing or barely passing a lot of classes. And the other smart girls all seemed to have like a life plan. Like they knew, what 3 colleges they wanted to apply to and what their majors would be and what their careers would be. And I felt like I was floundering. I felt lost. I felt like it was supposed to be something I cared about. Although it turns out I don't give a flying fuck about school. If I were single and living in a shitty apartment with roommates, then I would seriously consider a trade school, as I have many times in the past when I lived in shitty apartments with roommates and never really I was afraid to try that, but that's what I would do. I wouldn't take the route you have taken, um, because I don't want to read those books or write those papers. And I like having a lot of time to make my weird music or write, or, and not to mention being a mother. But if I never had a child or husband, trade school. But anyway, back in those days, I really felt like one had to have academic success, a career, financial success, a husband, 2 kids, a cool apartment in the city or house in the burbs. And I just knew I couldn't get my shit together. I knew it wasn't going to happen for me. And I blamed myself completely. And looking back, I'm like, wow, my home life was chaotic. And nobody was nurturing what I was good at or helping me with what I was not good at. That's not completely true. Sometimes if I wrote a good paper, I got some praise. My mother did hire a math tutor, so that's not exactly true. But the overall vibe was, I was just neglected. So Danielle was like, there's stages of brain development, and at that point, your brain was developing, and, for that age, and you were a dumping ground for your family, you were emotionally neglected, school wasn't going to happen for you. It's just, and not because you were a loser, but because you weren't getting the love and nurturing that you needed and support. And so then I was like, I can't imagine having a child and doing that to her. But then I was like, well, my mother had 6 kids. I was the youngest of 6 kids. And she had a father who was like a manic depressive alcoholic man who was traveling the world half of the time. So she was alone half of the time. She must have known or suspected that he was cheating on her. She was depressed. I don't know how I would handle a life like that. I get fucking depressed now with 1 child. So I'm not blaming my mother for her shortcomings with me. I feel bad for her. I feel sad for her. I don't feel sad for my father. Unless there's something really painful that led him to what he was, then. But I don't know what it was. He was spoiled. Whatever spoiled means. He was his mother's favorite. His brother was not the favorite. But whatever, I don't know. It's like we're talking about the 1940s. So I see a bloody clown. Please don't be a bloody clown. I hallucinate. Did I tell you that? We talked about Cookiegate. I thought I had told her about it, but I had told her, but I filled her and I was like, Allison standing over and screaming at my daughter and blah, and how Carol Ann said she would do something. She said she would do something. She said she would do something, and she never did anything. And how you were like, she didn't protect Poppy. It's a cycle. It's starting again. And It's sickening. I told her that a few months ago they were doing couples counseling, and she said she blamed Beast completely on for the problems in our relationship with each other. Okay, but anyway, hold that thought. And she said to me, I mean, you and Allison are the two most important women in my life, and I just can't stand that there's a rift between you. And when she said, like, that was one of the most important women in her life, I felt ill. I felt sick, really sick. My therapist, I was like, is this some kind of incest thing? My therapist was like, on some level. I was like, what the fuck? And she was like, well, I believe that at some point in her early life, she was sexualized in some way. It's funny because a couple weeks ago, she was like, your father fucked her. I mean, she was like, this is wild speculation. She wasn't truly suggesting that. But anyway, she's like, at some point, your sister was sexually used. And so she now objectifies people, women, creates a sensual vibe between women that she's close to, and it's a way for her to feel close to people. It's the way she knows how to. Okay, anyway, so you two are it's all her fault. She's like, I blame her. You two are the closest people in my life. And then, like a few weeks, well, I guess it's a few months, a few texts ago, it was the Boyle that must be Lance. Because she asked, I've probably told you this, but it's still infuriating me. She was like, would you guys like to sleep over? And if not, what is Paul's reason? What is your reason? And I was like, Paul's is chickens, and mine is I'm not comfortable being there. And she's like, that's what I thought. And then like 3 days later, she was like, so would you guys, be up for sleeping over? And I was like, as I said, no, I'm not comfortable. And that's when she was like, the Boyle must be lanced. There was more to it than that, more absurdity. I don't want it to be like, I didn't engage, but like, oh, I thought it was all her fault. So shouldn't she lance the Boyle? But then that would make me sound petty. So she just ignored it. I'm not gonna lance the Boyle. I'm not gonna lance the Boyle. And Paul was like, really what it comes down to is you two don't like each other, and nothing's gonna change that. Like therapy or lancing Boyles or like, it's not gonna happen. She's been around for 10 years. It's just like, probably just will go forward as you have. But that doesn't have like, I didn't get to that therapy. That's just one of the things that, okay, Poppy's birthday and all that entailed. This Lance the Boyle shit and my birthday shit, all taking place within 2 months, has triggered